8:40 on your hometown station, KHTS. It's the Hometown Morning Show with Tori and Kyle.
Make sure you go.
Ooh.
Make sure you go.
No, that's my line.
Okay.
You're always doing my line.
Okay, go
All right,
ahead.
hang on. 3, 2, 1.
Make sure you...
Son of a... Make sure you go to hometownstation.com for all the latest and greatest Santa Clarita has to offer. And speaking of the greatest Santa Clarita has to offer, if you have critters to get rid of, we're not talking about children.
No.
We're talking about actual tiny critters.
You mean like bugs?
Yeah, like bugs. Or if you want to learn stuff about colonies of ants, this is your man, because he knows a lot about it. Cardon Ellis from Unipest joins us on the Hometown Morning Show.
Cardon, good morning. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
It is. It is a very happy Friday. We kind of... I'm not going to lie. We talked behind your back about the knowledge you have regarding bugs. It's almost freaky scary. You can just, we can say a bug and the name of a bug, and you could get up and teach a college course on that bug. You would have a lecture. You would have a 40-minute lecture, no kidding.
I would say usually that it's useless information. However, it has assisted me in many a game night in Trivial Pursuit. And I actually qualified. I can say this now because it's over. But I actually qualified and then ended up winning a game show because I was able, one of the questions was, in the test area where they test the people to get on the game show,
Sure.
was what's the definition of a true insect and how many legs it had. And I knew that a true insect has 6 legs. And so that's how I got on.
How would anyone...
So I can't say that it's not useless, in game shows, it's helpful.
How would anyone know that? Cardon Ellis, Unipest. Let's talk about... How about termites? You want to talk about termites?
Oh, geez. Yeah, I'm doing tons of those lately. I got a bunch of VA inspections and escrow inspections. Yeah, termites are awesome. What do you want to know?
Well, there's so much. How do we know that we have termites? How about that? Do you have to... Is it noticeable to the naked eye, or do you have to come out?
Yeah, this is like the big thing.
Okay.
This is the big thing right now because Santa Clarita is maturing, shall we say,
Okay.
right? And once homes start reaching that 30 and that 40 and that 50-year-old mark, it's just, we live so close to the ocean. The southwestern drywood termite just ends up coming because all the oak trees are here. As the trees get older and bigger, all those beautiful California sycamores of Valencia and surrounding Canyon High and all these things that they planted in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. Well, those trees, they're all getting 40, 50, 60 feet high. They're maturing. They're starting to get dead limbs. They're getting lots of termites. And our houses are getting termites with them because a lot of these houses that boomed in the 60s and then the late 70s and then the 80s and so on and so forth, they're starting to reach their whole 2-decade, 3-decade, 4-decade mark, and that's when you start getting termites. So the amount of termite calls in Santa Clarita has been really escalating in the past decade and will continue to escalate, obviously, just as Santa Clarita is a much more established city now. I mean,
when you sell your home, I had a home in the San Fernando Valley, and it was a conclusion. Like you couldn't get around that termite inspection.
Oh yeah,
for sure. Now, what about here in the Santa Clarita Valley? Is that the same deal?
Yes, that's an escrow inspection thing. Okay, and it's probably good that our listeners know this because there's a lot of confusion about this. In a nutshell, the mortgage industry, people don't realize this, but the mortgage industry actually, when it started after World War II, because the Montgomery GI Bill basically...
Classes in session.
Yeah, classes in session. Well, it was the first time we really had a massive middle class and the single-family home was necessary. Because before then, you either lived in a rural environment or else you lived in an urban environment in like tenement apartments, right? Mm-hmm. When all of a sudden these GIs come home, they'd gone through Union Station, fell in love with California, and they decided, I want to buy a home, but I'm going to have to buy a single-family home. Well, in order to finance it, there was this, what they thought was going to be a temporary industry of mortgages established. People literally thought within a decade, everybody would have gotten over the hump of needing the loan for a house, that they would just have these lump sums that they could use to buy their next house. Like literally when they started the mortgage industry, they thought it was going to be temporary. Little did they know there'd be these massive sponsors of this radio station and television commercials and so on and so forth. And the problem with mortgages is these industries are always lending blind. They don't come and they don't look at the property. It's an underwriter sitting somewhere in Portland or sitting somewhere in, even if it's here in Santa Clarita, may never actually actually look at the property itself. And they don't want to lend this massive amount of money, you know, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 on a home that might have structural problems, or that might have problems significant enough that you're directing your money towards repairing it instead of paying them back the loan, right?
Sure.
So they started wanting to have professional termite inspectors and home inspectors take a look at it before they lend on it, because termites are kind of secret. Like, they do their damage where unless you have a trained eye, you don't pick up on them. And by the time you notice it, it's too late, or especially in earthquakes, their damage will be manifest. And we're talking really bad structural damage, right? And so they started requiring that termite guys go out and check it out and give them these little stamps of approval and clearances before they can get a house loan. And they divide it up in these little Section 1 versus Section 2 arguments, where, like, if it's a live infestation at Section 1, if it could lead to an infestation at Section 2. So we always have to go out before a home is purchased. And if the lending organization requires it, they have to get our stamp of approval so the whole thing will pass. It's kind of it's kind of a cool process, though, because you literally crawl up and down and inside and out the entire house. You have to crawl through the entire attic and the entire crawl space, and you find wild stuff in that crawl space.
Oh, no.
I found bootleggers whiskey on Chestnut Street. There was a home built in like the 20s that made it through the 30s, and I found a part of the attic where there were still massive flasks of old bathtub lightning. I'm not kidding you.
What did they do with it? What did the current owners, what did they do?
It was so, like, not potable. Like, most of the seals were kind of broken. There was 2 or 3, though, that, like, looked as good as the day that they were brewed, I guess. I don't know that much about moonshine.
That is hysterical.
Yeah, on Chestnut Street, I totally found a bunch of Prohibition-era moonshine.
I thought for sure you were going to say, now that's a good story. That is good. I thought you were going to go more toward, like bones and,
No, I haven't found any bones, unfortunately. Unfortunately,
you're the type of guy. You're the type of guy who probably, when you get the call for the termites, rubs your hands together and says, "Oh yeah, let's see what we're going to find today."
Well, it is pretty cool. I got videos on my website of these, like, massive infestations that like, when you foam them, it's pretty awesome. Like, the foam spreads through the entire piece of wood, and it pops out in areas you never would have inspected before, or expected before. It's pretty cool. And termites, you can eat them.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can eat them. It's pretty
you
well.
can eat
termites?
Yeah,
in Africa, they actually have a pretty steady diet of termites because they're really large. I have tried one.
Of course you have. Of course you have.
I tried a subterranean termite once in Simi Valley. There was a really bad infestation. There was a bunch of them coming out. So before I sprayed the pesticide, I thought, you know what, you just have to. At this point, you have to.
His name is Cardon Ellis. He is owner and operator of Unipest with your dad, right?
Yeah, me and my pops.
Unipest, and if you have a termite situation, if you have any kind of a situation, I know we don't have time to talk about it, but I'm getting a lot of Facebook posts about bees.
Totally.
And you can handle that as well.
Oh, all the time.
Okay.
We do all the repair and everything. Bees are super fun, and sometimes you can even take them to a beekeeper and save the whole colony.
Okay, so if you want not only a guy who can handle this, not only a guy who's knowledgeable, not only a guy who is fun, I'm going to put the emphasis on fun. Did you ever have a fun bug guy before? I don't know. I don't think so. I'm going to go with no. This is your guy. How do we get in touch with you, Cardon Ellis?
Oh, you got to check us out at www.unipest.com or just call us. Actually, calling is the best.
Okay.
And it's super easy to remember. It's 661-BUG-7575, which is 284-7575.
Say it again. It's bug.
Bug.
7575. That's easy. Piece of cake.
Yeah, totally.
All
Program
right.
it to your cell phone.
Cardon Ellis, thank you so much. You're always a crack up.